Man, I get it. A 9 to 5 sucks. If you're like me and you go on social media, you probably see videos and posts all over the place talking about how a 9 to 5 is, a waste of life. It's a rat race. You're basically just a corporate slave. And while I do agree with this to some extent, which I'll talk about a little bit more later in the video, I don't agree with it fully. Actually, I don't really agree with it for the most part. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and say there is nothing wrong to a 9 to 5 or any other type of regular day to day work. Obviously, a 9 to 5 just means or refers to, at least in the United States, just a normal job. I know some people will work 12 hours a day, some people work 30 hours a day, some people never stop working. But if you have a normal job, which is probably most people watching this video, then this applies to you. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's social media. I'm not quite sure what it is. But I'd say in the past decade or so, there's just been this total hate on 9 to 5 jobs, man. Or I should say 9 to 5 jobs and normal careers in general. And like I said before, I somewhat agree with some of this hate. Like, yes, do I like going to work every day of the week? No, a lot of the times I absolutely hate it. Even a day like today, I woke up and I went, man, I don't even want to do any work today. I don't want to do anything. All I see is posts and people talking about, oh man, you got to work, but then you got to have this high side hustle mindset, or you got to be your own business. You got to be self-made. You got to be why don't you become your own employer? I hear this rhetoric online over and over and over again. And I think many people feel that if they just, have a regular job or they make a regular salary and they don't have a huge salary and they work a normal, say, factory job or a normal desk job like myself, that they're somehow a failure or that they're behind. Now, I'm not saying everybody feels like this, but I could see how being on social media and seeing all these posts and people talking about other side hustles or how much money they make out of their 9 to 5 job or why they will never work a 9 to 5 again could make some people feel like they're going down the wrong path in life. But if you feel like this way, I'm here to tell you there's nothing wrong with your 9 to 5 normal job and you are not a corporate slave. Now, before I start talking about some of the negatives or hard truths about 9 to 5s and normal careers, I want to first go over some positive things, which I feel like people never really mention. Now, one big thing that I never hear people talk about, especially the, oh, be self employed and work for yourself people, is that when you work a 9 to 5, you are not responsible for the business that you're working for. And now, what do I mean by that? Yes, obviously, you're responsible for, showing up to work and doing your job. But at the end of the day, whether that business succeeds or fails is not your burden. And on the other side of that, you don't have to worry about, people getting paid, making profits, having a bad month in your business, lawsuits, legal fees, all sorts of things that I probably can't even imagine. There's probably a whole list of things that owning a business, has its own stressors. And I feel like people really don't sit back and think about that. People think that, all the people at the top, the executives or the business owners are just living the luxurious lives and, not doing anything and have no worries. And that you're just the rat grinding away for their dream for 8 hours or more a day. And while this might be true with some, billionaires and stuff who just pay other people to figure out all the problems of their business for them, I'd say a lot of smaller to medium-sized businesses, the executives and the people who own it actually probably think more about the business than you do and have a lot more stress when it comes to that business. I think that's one of my favorite things about my 9 to 5 job, and this isn't true for everybody, but once my 8 hours is over, I no longer care or really think about the company or the business at all. Now just think if you're one of the owners or executives or higher up managers in the company that you work for. If you're the owner, then you obviously have to worry about all the people you employ, making sure payroll gets made, like I said before, any legal things, making sure you're trying to make a profit. And you're probably worrying and working so much outside of your 9 to 5 hours that it could be really stressful. Now, that might be a luxury for some people. Some people might absolutely love that constant work and running a business, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But when you think about it from the people's perspective who are saying, start your own business, work for yourself, that is a lot of added stress that you don't think about until you're in that position. Having the somewhat, steady paycheck of just going to work, showing up, doing your job, and leaving is a really good feeling compared to waking up and being like, am I going to make money today? Am I going to make money this week? Am I going to make money this month? Is my business going to work? Is my self-employment going to continue to work? And I'll emphasize this too. People always say, be self-employed. Go. You have the internet. Go make money online. I've heard that so much. Like there's a whole internet. There's millions of ways to make money, and this is true. But there's no ways to make money, I'd say, without some serious work. People act like making money online is just logging onto a website, clicking a button, and collecting thousands and thousands of dollars every month. Or even, I'll just make a YouTube channel, upload a couple videos, and then you can cash in. And although this is true for some people, for most, it's just not true, especially not right away. One of the other positives I think about a 9 to 5, and this kind of takes a different perspective, is that it's almost somewhat of a luxury to have a job. Now I know people might, scoff or turn their heads at this statement, but there's a lot of people throughout the world who really wish they could just go to work 5 days a week and have a, paycheck, provide for themselves or their family, and get benefits, including, health benefits and all those things. They just don't have the opportunity to, because maybe they live in a country that is unstable, doesn't have a good work environment or a good economy. Because I do think that people take working 40 hours a week a little bit for granted, because there are some people in the world who do work all day just to have barely even a meal on the table. I know that's more of a worldly perspective, but I do think it matters. So if you totally think your job sucks, maybe just be a little bit grateful that you do get a paycheck and you are able to hopefully feed yourself, family, and have a roof over your head without barely scraping by. Now, when I say be grateful, that doesn't mean you have to wake up every day and force a smile on your face when you go to work. Obviously, if you don't like the position you're in, you don't like your job, you don't like the hours you work, you don't like the pay that you get, obviously, I do encourage you to try to change that. I'm not saying being grateful as in just staying in one place and accepting it, but understanding that what you might dread every day, some person might think is the best thing in the world, or at least a totally life-changing, experience. Now, to get into some of the negatives, or I think the perceived negatives, because I'll be honest, just as much as anybody else, man, I hate the 9 to 5 life most of the time, just like you. I'm not sitting here with a big smile on my face, loving every moment of it. And do I think a 9 to 5 is a so-called rat race? Now, I think it's really only the rat race if you let it be. I mean that if you go to your job, with a bad attitude and you totally hate it, and you come home after a long day of work, you sit there, scroll on TikTok for a couple hours, watch a TV show, maybe eat a meal, and then you just go to bed and do just another day and roll right into it just like that. And then also, if you spend all the money from your paycheck on not only bills, obviously, but you spend it on stupid things like buying extra shoes and clothes and cars, or whatever things that you don't need that you keep buying with the money, then yes, I think that would qualify as being part of the rat race. Yes, a 9 to 5 sucks. Yes, it sucks having to wake up every day and do a job that you might not care about. But I think it is, and this is kind of not rolling out of the negatives, but I think a 9 to 5 is an amazing way and a real way to build, substantial wealth. So in my last video, I went over my net worth and or actually all of my investments. So I basically built a, over $300,000, portfolio off of just, working regular jobs, and not even high paying jobs, just regular 9 to 5, work. And my plan with that is to, eventually retire early and no longer have to work, or work on my own terms. So what I'm saying is make a 9 to 5 work for you. Either use it to, upgrade your skills and, maybe go make more money, or just to have more skills in general. Use it for some of its educational benefits. A lot of companies offer educational benefits for you to go to school and for you to get another degree or a partial degree or some college credits, or to attend certain classes. Use some of the 401ks that these companies offer. I know a lot of companies nowadays have 401ks that offer, matches, where they match, 5% or, some more or less of the amount of money you put in to your retirement. This is all free extra money that you don't really have to worry about. You just get from working a 9 to 5. So I think if you make a 9 to 5 work for you, and you start taking some of that money and investing it in yourself and in stocks and in these financial institutions that can lead to you being financially free, then I think a 9 to 5 is perfectly fine. You don't even need to go start your own business or your own side hustle. For example, I'd say YouTube's the only, side hustle, if you want to even call it that, because I don't even do this for money. But I've only ever worked a 9 to 5 or a normal job, and I've never had these huge side hustles or anything like that. But what I have done is taken that 9 to 5 and allocated what I've earned from that, I think, into the right places to hopefully reach the goals and mainly financial freedom. But let's be honest, no one wants to work the rat race, as in, going to work until they're, 65, 70 years old. Nobody wants to do that. Hell, I don't even want to do that till I'm freaking 30, man. I don't want to do it till I'm 35, 40. That sounds awful. That's another 10, 14 years, and I don't even want to think about that. But to me, that is the rat race. The rat race is, just being passive about your 9 to 5 job, not using any of the money to that you make to invest in yourself or stocks or anything like that. Watching TV and just living your life like that. Just I think the rat race is a mindset and not the actual reality. So basically, to wrap this up, what I'm saying is no, you don't have to love your 9 to 5 job. You don't have to fake it. What I am saying is use it to fuel your financial future, your personal future in terms of skills and character. And stop looking at it as this never ending cycle that will pay off in 40 years, because it doesn't have to. It can pay off way sooner than that. And then outside of that 9 to 5 job, start building on your own skills. Start going and experiencing things that you want to. Just find a way to get out of the so-called rat race. But that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys all enjoyed. And peace out.